following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Drivers, start your engines. Pull those belts down tight one more time, warm up those tires, hit your marks, and let's go racing, boys and girls. NASCAR, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here's your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
Well, let's see if the microphone is still not quite fixed yet, so we'll have to deal with that during the break. But the lucky thing is this is the short part of it. This is the tease. I'm Steve West, Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers. Got plenty of news this week, including wondering about the future of one track while we update the progress of work being done at another. One of the owners of the Daytona 500 winning JTG Dougherty Racing got to talking about its meaning to him. New tires and safety features in IndyCar. Got two more driver announcements. Yes, two more driver announcements for the Superstar Racing experience. Got a driver academy. We hear about that all the time in Formula One. How about the NHRA? Got one there too. Preseason testing underway in Formula One. Brand new FIA sanctioned feeder series, but which series are they feeding into? All of that and some breaking news from Formula One coming up on this weekend's edition of CRN Getting the Green Flag next.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. On the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back into the show. Switching microphones again. It's the way it goes sometimes. Welcome to live radio, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Steve West, Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers here. And last weekend, we got the NASCAR season underway. Before we get in, well, I'll tell you what, I'll get into the Daytona 500 in a second.
There's one thing I really would like to just tease out. I threw it out on social media the other day. March and April are going to be massive.
That's true.
For interviews.
That's
massive.
True. We will get back to that. But let's talk about the results from last weekend. We already mentioned the Craftsman Truck Series race because that was a Friday evening race. So we pick up, pardon the pun, with the Xfinity Series 1 week ago today as we go live on the air. If you're watching on a delayed basis on CRN Live, well, then last Saturday. Mm-hmm. As it often happens at Daytona and Talladega, it comes down to a final lap, a last lap crash, and a video review. That's the situation last week. Sam Mayer got caught up in a wreck. He ended up on his roof sliding down the back stretch, happened to hit the grass just right, and flipped back over onto his wheels without rolling over, except for having been on his roof. So that was actually kind of lucky.
Really just a long, lazy slide.
It really was. When NASCAR hit the caution light, it was too close to call between the defending race winner, Austin Hill, series veteran Justin Allgaier, and a third car in John Hunter Nemechek, full-time now in Xfinity competition. Took a good bit of time, left the trio to sweat it out, waiting for the ultimate decision. And when it finally came down to the decision, it was Austin Hill, considered to be the winner now of 2 straight Xfinity Series season openers. Hill saying afterwards, as soon as the caution lights came on, I thought I had it, but it was so close. To get back-to-back here at Daytona, really special. That's 3 wins for me now, 2 in the Xfinity Series, 1 in the trucks here. We came from the back 2 different times. We won at Daytona. Let's go. This is a big thing. It doesn't matter what series you're in.
Right.
If you win at Daytona in the season opener, we always talk about how big the Daytona 500 is, but it's big for everybody, and it doesn't matter what series it is.
It's every series is Super Bowl.
Yeah.
For the opening race.
I agree.
I mean, there's no other way to say it. You win Daytona, that's a massive check mark in your box.
Yep.
I mean, just look at the ARCA event with Greg Van Alst.
Oh, sure.
He lost his mind at the start-finish line. And it was
a good losing his mind, but still.
It was what you define as truly genuine.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Genuine celebration.
High emotions. That was good stuff. John Hunter Nemechek was officially deemed second. Justin Allgaier third. Parker Retzlaff fourth. Wyatt Smider, Riley Earps, Joe Graff Jr., Ryan Sieg, Cole Custer, and Justin Haley make up the top 10. Since the points mirror the finish, we're going to leave that be until we recap this weekend's race, or whenever they get this weekend's race in, because you took a look at a radar.
Let's just say an unwanted guest known as Mother Nature is making her presence known very largely in Southern California.
And there's an old song that goes, "It never rains in Southern California." Yeah, right.
Think.
Sunday's Daytona 500, I'm going to start off by saying this. I know that there are a lot of people, and I saw them beginning while the race was barely, I don't think we were 25 laps in, complaining about the number of times, if they were watching on television, that Fox went to commercials.
It was a lot.
I agree, but here's the thing. We're racing fans. We understand one thing about racing. You can't do it without sponsorship. The same is true for television. The same is true for radio. True. If you listen to the Motor Racing Network or the Performance Racing Network or the Indianapolis Racing Network or the Championship Racing Network, it cannot be done without sponsorship. And here's the thing. The rights to NASCAR, to the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NBA, the NHL, Major League Soccer, literally any sport that gets on television and or radio, those rights fees aren't going down. They're only going up. So here's the thing. Fox, NBC, ESPN, ABC, whoever it is that's covering whatever series or sport that we're talking about, they're either going to have to charge a whole heck of a lot more for those commercials, or they're going to have to run more commercials. I hate to tell you that, but welcome to the way that broadcasting goes. That's the way that it is. Sorry if you don't like it, and if that means that you're no longer going to watch, well, that's up to you. But that's the way it's going to be, because we've got this year and next year with the current contract for NASCAR with NBC and Fox splitting the coverage. And they've already said they're going to be asking for more money for the rights for broadcasting for the next contract. That's going to mean more commercials or more expensive commercials. And considering that companies are taking a very close look at their advertising budgets, it's probably going to be more commercials instead of having to pay more for them. Welcome to reality.
Here is something. It's funny going on this subject because something I just saw via Twitter on Mike Joy's Twitter account.
Mm-hmm.
He tweeted it last night. This afternoon, we reviewed the Daytona 500 on Fox, including 2 side-by-side breaks. Viewers saw all of the last 67 green flag laps of the race. That's nearly the entire third segment.
And that's a lot of the reason why you saw a lot of breaks at the beginning. They were trying to front load their commercials so that they would go to break less during the latter part of the race.
And I don't blame them.
No, I don't either. That's how I would have done it as well. But either way, let's get to the action. Vast majority of the race kind of appeared it was going to end as one of the faster races in history, at least in stage racing Daytona 500 history, but it turned out not to be. The race ended up going into 2 overtimes, became the longest in miles Daytona 500 in history. It actually went to lap 212. That's over 520 miles in total. On the final lap, Eric Almirola, who'd been up front most of the day, was actually trying to battle back from having kind of been shuffled back into the pack a little bit. And that's when he got into Travis Pastrana, bounced off a pole sitter Kyle Larson. It actually set Pastrana right. Larson, however, ended up getting into the outside wall, and that created a mess. Brought out a caution flag, and like in the Xfinity race, that was on the last lap, and it created a booth video review. The 2 cars battling out front included the defending Cup Series champion Joey Logano and an underdog, JTG Daugherty Racing's Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Single car operation. Goes to show Daytona, Talladega, somewhat at Atlanta, anybody can win. Exactly. Thanks to a timely push by Christopher Bell, NASCAR called an end to the 199-race winless streak of one Ricky Stenhouse Jr., whose last win also happened to come at Daytona back in 2017, and he gives Chevrolet their 25th Daytona 500 win all-time. I have to admit, I kind of thought that would have been more, but these are the things that you find out as you go through history.
Yeah, I mean, you would have thought they would have had a lot more, but 65 Daytona 500s, 25 wins by Chevrolet.
That's only 40 for the other
That's
marks.
over.
That's not bad.
That's well over 30% of the wins.
Oh, yeah.
Which is large.
It is. Stenhouse, who's been reunited with crew chief Mike Kelly a decade after the two claimed 2 Xfinity Series titles, said, quote, "Yeah, I think this whole offseason Mike just preached how much we all believed in each other. They left me a note in the car that said that they believed in me and to get the job done tonight. I made a few mistakes, but we were able to battle back. This was the site of my last win back in 2017, summer, not Daytona 500, obviously. We worked really hard, had a couple of shots last year to get a win, fell short. It was a tough season, but, man, we got it done. Daytona 500. And here's the thing. Doesn't matter what Ricky Stenhouse Jr. does for the rest of his career. He is now called Daytona 500 winning driver, Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
That feather is in that cap.
Yep, can't take it away.
Feather's in the cap.
Final results, trailing Stenhouse, Logano, Christopher Bell third, Chris Buescher fourth, Alex Bowman, A.J. Allmendinger, Daniel Suarez, Ryan Blaney, Ross Chastain, and Riley Herbst filling out the top 10. Now, Riley doesn't run for points in the series, but the points in Xfinity, for the most part, mirror the finish. We'll get back to that once we get a couple of more races under our belt. So what's going on this weekend? Well, we actually begin with Formula E. They're ready to get things underway in South Africa for the Cape Town E-Prix on a relatively tight 12-turn, 1.82-mile-long city street course. Turns are really more curves than actual turns as I looked at the map. Should allow for some higher speeds than you see really for most of the year in their series.
Yeah, and I've got something, a bit of news that came out 3 hours ago.
Okay.
Mahindra has confirmed to Formula E they have withdrawn from the race this weekend in Cape Town due to rear suspension safety concerns.
Better safe than sorry. CBS Sports Network, if you get it, has got the airing of it, 8:30 a.m. Eastern, 7:30 a.m. Central, so they actually probably are fairly close to it. We'll take a look at that and maybe give you an update, see what the situation is on that particular event. Xfinity Series at Auto Club Speedway in Fontana, California. Last planned race for the series on the 2-mile D-shaped oval as it sits, because then they're going to start, supposedly. We'll get back to that, too, in NASCAR news. Production Alliance 300 airs on Fox Sports 1, MRN Radio. Supposed to be 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central Time. Mother Nature going to have to get out of the way quick. Otherwise, this ain't going to be a race that's going to happen today. We'll keep you updated. Sunday, last planned race for the Cup Series Auto Club Speedway as it currently sits before, again, they think about changing it to short track. Pala Casino 400 airs on Fox and MRN Radio, begins 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Central Time. And a couple of notes here when it comes to that. If you actually stuck through the Daytona 500, you might have seen a new NASCAR campaign. They ran a video entitled Anthem. Was produced by 77 Ventures creative and director Mark Jenkinson, and it was about the 75-year NASCAR journey. Took about 60 seconds, closed with the line, always forward. Next up, if you give it a few more races, they're going to do another such video. It's going to be called Present. It's going to showcase today's future and young up-and-coming racers. And then they're going to have another video later called Future, set to come in the summertime. With a title like that, they're looking ahead at what probably is coming next for NASCAR over the next 25, 50, 75 years. Most will debut on the races as 60-second features, but there will also be 30-second versions of it. All will feature a kind of a generic number 75 race car, and again, they're going to run all season long as NASCAR, again, celebrates their 75 years. What do you got?
When we come back from the break, we'll have a quick update on the FIA Formula E race in Cape Town because they are green.
Okay. So we'll give you an update on that. And as mentioned, things are planned for Auto Club Speedway in Southern California. We'll tell you what the plans are, but we'll also tell you, being California, there's a hiccup. I know you're shocked. We'll detail it all next on CRN.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. Tires only, and back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back into the show. Steve West along with Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers. Before we get into the NASCAR news and talking about a couple of different tracks and updating you on their particular status, let's talk a little Formula E because their race is underway.
Right now, they're at lap 13 of 30 in Cape Town and running through the running order. Nick Cassidy's leading. Max Gunther second. Sasha Fenestraz, your pole winner, was
a little
third.
bit of an upset to me.
Jean-Eric Vergne fourth. Renee Rast in fifth. Antonio Felix da Costa sixth. Dan Ticktum seventh. Jake Hughes eighth. Stoffel Van Dorn in ninth. Jake Dennis is in top 10.
Okay.
Norman Nato's 11th. Andre Lauderer 12th. Sebastian Buemi 13th. Sergio Sete Camaro is 14th. And the last running car on the track is Mitch Evans in 15th. Eduardo Mortara and Pascal Wehrlein are out.
Hate it when that happens. Wonder what happened there.
Oh.
All right, so as we talked about during the race schedule just a moment ago, we said it was going to be the final time for NASCAR to run in that 2-mile D-shaped oval Auto Club Speedway out in Fontana, California. It's because plans are that the track will begin its transformation into a short track and have some aspects of some of the well-known NASCAR short tracks. Going to have a little bit of Richmond, going to have a little bit of Bristol, going to have a little bit of Martinsville. So apparently the D-shaped that it has now is going to stick,
Right.
a la Richmond.
Right.
It's going to have long straightaways with fairly tight turns, a la Martinsville, but those turns are going to be pretty well banked, somewhat like Bristol. Again, I haven't seen the official blueprints on the finished product, and the thing is, to the best of my knowledge, they haven't made them public. If they have, I haven't seen it.
I'm wanting to say that I saw a glimpse of something the other day that resembled it.
Okay. Well, while you try and check that out, Dave Allen, who's the Auto Club track president, recently said that NASCAR is, quote, still trying to figure out what makes the most sense both on and off the track. That's a problem. Because if we haven't figured that out already and you're supposed to start digging, like sometime after this weekend, we don't know when you're going to be in Southern California next time to race at this particular facility, right?
That's a fantastic point.
So when does work begin? When does it finish? When might it finish? We don't even. NASCAR doesn't know. And here's the thing. Busch Light Clash at the LA Coliseum notwithstanding, this would leave Southern California without a points-paying race for the first time since there was an 8-year absence from 1990 to 1998. Before that, it was Riverside International, the road course that they got closed before Auto Club Speedway, which was actually built by Roger Penske, opened up to then rave reviews. And I'm hearing they're almost sold out for this weekend because they understand this is the last time in its current configuration.
Right.
Again, it's already been revealed Fontana not going to be on the 2024 NASCAR schedule because of construction work, assuming that they actually have the plans, reportedly going to be going on at that particular point in time, and hearing that most of the land that will no longer be part of that track has already been sold or committed to somebody else. So they're going to have to get the heck out of Dodge in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, for $100 million.
Exactly. But again, there's been actually no commitment from NASCAR to head back to this track, and there's no timetable for this transformation from a 2-mile oval to a short track of whatever length it's going to be completed and in time ready to be ready for racing, ready for the public to come back and watch it. And then the other major hurdle is that this is California, and one would think that might be enough said, but I'm going to say it anyway. The overhaul was supposed to begin already, but it got delayed due to the stupid COVID pandemic, and California basically all but closed up and locked down everything entirely during the pandemic and continues to have some of the most ridiculous COVID restrictions in place, despite the revelation that 99% of them didn't work. NASCAR President Steve Phelps was asked about it this week on Sirius XM Satellite Radio's NASCAR channel. He said, quote, right now it's going to take a couple of years to build the new track. I keep thinking about what we did at Talladega and how quickly it was done. And I keep thinking about how they redid the infield at Richmond. They redid Phoenix. I mean, NASCAR is going through the process of redoing a lot of tracks. SMI is going through the process of doing different things to new tracks. Look at North Wilkesboro. We'll get back to them in a minute as well. Somehow, All these other facilities are able to get this done and stay on a schedule. But we can't do it in California.
All right, so now here, these keyboard idiots. Let's just say that.
We got a few of them.
Now they're flying rumors that the whole facility was sold for $544 million.
We haven't heard anything on that.
No, nothing official. And rumor Fontana to be converted to ridiculous short track or shuttered.
Now, first of all, why is a short track ridiculous?
When I'm looking at what is not an official blueprint, but it's a doggone good idea of what could
Slide
be.
over here and take a look.
What it could be.
Okay.
I mean, the main section of grandstands still in place.
Yeah, it would be.
Still in
Grandstands
place.
Added to turns 1 and 2 and a little bit out of turn 4.
Yeah. There's a crossover gate for the cars to come into.
Yeah, parking around behind the area
around
by the
there.
backstretch.
Garage area outside of the racetrack.
That's interesting, but that's why you've only got grandstands in turn 4, not in turn 3.
Yep.
Might have to try and figure out a way to get this to John, see if we can't put that up on our CRN live YouTube feed. Pardon me as I make a lot of noise moving the microphone back. But anyway, so this whole situation, again, Steve O'Donnell saying it might take a couple of years to build a new track. It's something right now that we're interested in doing. What that timeline looks like, we're not sure. Some feel as though this might be a setup for the track, though, to be shut down, which we just talked about. Again, we haven't heard anything from NASCAR on that fact. And yes, Roger Penske built it, but Roger Penske sold it to NASCAR. So NASCAR owns and operates Auto Club Speedway. Yes, technically they can do whatever they want to with it. If they choose to sell off the entire property and close down the track, that's fine. But again, here's the thing. This would eliminate a points-paying race from Southern California. And we've been talking about this for the longest time. How NASCAR is trying to expand out and get a foothold in, especially in some of the largest media markets, okay? Los Angeles in and of itself is not one of the biggest cities in the country, but its metropolitan area is. And that, what I mean by that, if you're familiar with Alabama, you know, for example, that Birmingham is not just Birmingham is actually now no longer the largest city in the state. It's actually the third largest city in the state. But if you take its metropolitan area, including all of its suburbs, south, east, west, north, all of those, it is the biggest metropolitan area in the state. It's the biggest media market by far in the state of Alabama. Media market-wise, whether you're talking radio or television, New York is number 1. LA's number 2. Chicago's number 3. Why do you think we're going back to Chicago after we shuttered, for all intents and purposes, Chicagoland Speedway? We're doing a street race there because they want to have a presence in the third largest media market in the country. You think they want to abandon the second largest media market in the country? No. It's why we actually are going there twice. It's why we have the Busch Light Clash there. It's why we have this race at Auto Club. They are really going to have to be overwhelmed with an offer to close down this track because they want to be there not just for the Busch Light Clash. They want to be there so that they can get a race that awards points, that means a little bit more than just a cash grab.
Here's my disagreement with this.
Just one?
It's balled into one.
Okay.
Why are we thinking that we have to have a points-paying race?
It's an interesting question.
Why do we think we have to have that?
It is an interesting question. I'll grant you that.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I could line up quite a few. I wasn't going to say a certain number, but quite a few hauler drivers that don't mind that extra 200 or 300 miles to drive past Las Vegas or Phoenix or whatnot. I don't understand where the narrative is of why it's a necessary thing to have a points-paying race there. You think you have to be in the LA market. I'm pretty sure after Ontario Speedway shut down, when it did, I think NASCAR did just fine.
Sure.
Without the LA market. They did just fine without it.
And LA's fickle. I mean, LA is just radically fickle when it comes to their sportsdom. I mean, let's take the most successful couple of teams that are out there right now. Right now, the LA Dodgers in Major League Baseball are hot.
They are.
But if you watch their games, unless they are in a World Series, it doesn't matter how close the game is or whether it's a blowout on the Dodgers side or the Dodgers are being blown out. The vast majority of people are going to start leaving Dodger Stadium and Chavez Ravine by about the 6th or 7th inning.
I was about to say, in tribute to the late Vin Scully, Chavez Ravine doesn't get crowded all that much.
Nope. And they leave early. Then we take a team that I radically cannot stand, but I admit their place in the NBA history and pantheon. It's the Lakers. They will support the Lakers up until the point where they're not winning. And guess what they're not doing right now? They're not really winning.
They're not winning at all.
And while, yes, it is the NBA and they sell out, again, kind of like the Dodgers games, they're leaving early.
Pretty much.
This is not a NASCAR hot ground. I know that NASCAR wants to be there because it is the second largest media market in the country. They want to be there. But the question becomes, is there any reason to do it? So if they really want to get into this situation where they have this track done, go get it done. Figure out a way to cut through what is probably massive amounts of red tape that the state of California is throwing at you. Figure out the way to do it. Sell off whatever property you need to sell off to cut your losses. And let's get to digging. Or let's go find a place like a North Wilkesboro. Oh, I don't know, like a Rockingham. And let's put that race there. But either way, fish or cut bait.
I've got another idea. I got an even better idea. And last time I checked, things that are prophesized on this show have a very high tendency of coming to life.
We're pretty good at it.
Yeah, we are. I mean, the latest one, for example, is I said Haas F1 needs to have way more black on their car. Guess what's happening this year?
If you get a good look at it from the side, you think for a moment it's a black car. Sorry, it's not really black. It's actual bare carbon fiber, but that's another thing.
I do know. That guy does too. There's another racetrack that is a fairly large substance here in the state of Alabama that does work really, really well with another facility that is of even larger substance, and they're only 28 miles apart.
And from where we sit, we're within 45 miles of both of them.
Well, yeah, within a 45-mile radius
of the home base of us, of this show right now.
Okay. Get out of Southern California. Get all that red tape. Have what we call the ultimate Alabama Speed Weeks.
I like this idea. I like it a lot.
The ultimate Alabama Speed Weeks. Because if you look really carefully at the 2023 schedule of NASCAR and Indycar, all right, Indycar comes the week after Talladega. Okay.
Stick around Alabama. Let's get back to doing Alabama Speed Weeks, and let's do this by having another NASCAR IndyCar doubleheader.
Here's the kicker on the doubleheader. You run NASCAR at Barber the week before Talladega. You run Cup and Xfinity and ARCA at Talladega on the same normal traditional weekend.
Okay.
You follow right back up with IndyCar at Barber.
I like that. John says he's got those plans up there. So if you're wondering what they are thinking Auto Club is supposed to try and look like once the configuration is done, go to YouTube, look up CRN Live. If you have not subscribed yet, go ahead and do it. It's free. If you have subscribed, thank you very much, and we ask that you tell a friend. I like this idea. I will say this. I would like to see racing at a facility like this.
Okay.
It looks good on paper.
Mr. Plow makes a very good point here. And I'm going to second that. I'm going to second it with a second facility.
Okay.
LA's already got a nice track that they could go to.
Mhm.
Irwindale.
Sure. Yeah, it already exists.
And I'm going to throw another one out there that probably the money that they'd be taking to putting into Auto Club of revamping it or whatever they want to call it, it wouldn't take very much at all to add a few more stands around this facility, and it would be a pretty nice short track, better known as Kern County Raceway.
Yeah. ARCA runs there. ARCA Series West. ARCA Menards West goes
and
there.
bukus of late model races.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
And it's real popular.
It is.
So why not?
Well, and all right, well, let's look at where they're running the Busch Light Clash. They're doing a transformation of a football stadium. And I know the history of the LA Coliseum. Sorry, I'm always going to do that. I know the transformation, and it's become a football stadium. It's become a baseball stadium. It's become a racetrack in its history. It has hosted 2 and about to be a 3rd Olympics. They can make this thing pretty much anything they want. NASCAR has to spend 7 figures in cash transforming the LA Coliseum into a short track.
And the deal's not with the city of Los Angeles. It's with the University of Southern California.
They're spending millions of dollars to transform it for a cash grab race and then tear it all back down for one event.
Which is pointless. Pointless.
If you really want to continue that situation, why don't we have 2 races there? Get your money's worth out of it.
But you can't have a points race there because you can't field a full 40-car race.
I know.
You
It's
can't.
so weird. You know, this whole thing it's so screwed up, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that, ladies and gentlemen, it's California.
And
I'm never going to get off that. California makes things so ridiculously difficult.
Gavin Newsom.
And yet the Democratic Party's thinking, oh, he might be an interesting presidential candidate. Good call.
Shawtown Mark backs up Plow as well.
Oh,
with
yeah.
Irwindale.
I don't really have a problem with that at all.
And, you know, Irwindale's not a bad track because it's shameless plug here, my statistically best track on iRacing for short tracks. Shameless plug there. Commercial. Irwindale or Kern County is perfect.
Sure. It already exists out there. You wouldn't have to worry about it. NASCAR come in, add some stands, help out the track, you know, do some upgrades. Boom. Run a Cup Series, run an Xfinity Series, run a Truck Series race out there. I don't care.
There's a lot of things that Phelps, O'Donnell, and Kennedy do well. They have fantastic intentions, and they get good things done.
Sure.
I will say that.
Sure.
Even though we disagree with a lot, they do get a lot of good things done. But
Well, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we don't talk about on a week-to-week basis, too.
yes, sir, Mr. Plow, Highline all day long on super late models on Irwindale. All day long. But they've got to get off of this fix of having a race in a football stadium.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it's pointless.
Yeah, I agree. Wow, that was an entire segment. But you know what? It deserved it. When we come back, we're going to talk better news. North Wilkesboro Speedway is frenetically working on getting themselves ready for race weekend. Remember, they got All-Star Weekend. And NBC's talking about a couple of fan-favorite shows coming back for you NASCAR fans. Then we're going to get into Cup Series news. We're going to talk about how JTG Dougherty Racing feels after winning the Daytona 500.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network.
Maintenance is vital for your vehicle.
fuel only, fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back into the show. We appreciate everyone checking us out, wherever it be, on the FM dial, on the app for our home station, or via CRN Live on YouTube, which you can go to right now. Again, you can subscribe if you already have. Thank you very much. Tell your friends about it. We appreciate it.
No, Mark, the bottle is not spiked.
Although
that Matt knows of.
some mornings we would like to. The exact opposite in almost every way of how things get done when it comes to working on a racetrack is how North Carolina embraces it and how fast things are going at North Wilkesboro Speedway.
Correct.
California doesn't know squat. North Wilkesboro Speedway's work, frenetic pace. They continue in preparation for their return of NASCAR May 19th through the 21st. First for the Craftsman Truck Series and then All-Star Race Weekend for the Cup Series. The first time since 1996 that the Cup race is going to be there. Cup Series will be there. And the update is safer barriers now being installed. I think they said 70 to 80% basically of all the walls inside and out are going to be covered. Obviously, they got to do the entire outside. There's going to be some areas probably where they're not going to hit it, but it'd be very unlikely, I think they believe, that a car would actually hit the barrier in those areas. And they'll get to installing the rest of the safer barrier at some point in time later.
Yeah.
In addition, suites have new siding and roofs, so they're eliminating any leaks when it rains because, let's face it, it had been all but neglected and not touched since it was abandoned back in 1996. They've done all the plumbing. They've done all the electrical. They've done new sheetrock in the suites as well. Painting has begun there. Lighting for the Musco poles and the wiring for them has come in. Installation actually began Thursday or yesterday, and about half the planned paving in the infield's complete. The other half set to begin within the last couple of days. So they stay basically still left to do finishing the painting, updating the infield scoring tower, installing the new lighting and towers for that, reinstalling, yes, I said reinstalling the manual lap count and top 5 leaderboard. They found that in some storage area somewhere and said, you know what? We're bringing it back. I like that. That's cool. Scoreboard operator at Talladega over there.
Hi. I'm available that weekend.
Just saying.
If you need me, call me, Marcus.
So they're going to install the manual lap counter, top 5 leaderboard. They're going to complete the infield paving and complete the work on the buildings, and they will be ready to go. The biggest question so far has been, are they going to fix the big mural outside that still says NASCAR Winston Cup Series? And NASCAR and North Wilkesboro have both said, nope, we're not painting over it. Nope, we're not touching it up. We're going to make and take steps to preserve that and keep it as it sits and hope to keep it from flaking the rest of the way off.
That's cool.
I love it.
They're going to do something with it. I forgot what they called it, but it's going to, like you said, it's going to keep it preserved, but it's going to make it clean.
Yeah. Clean it up a little bit, keep it preserved, and then probably do some sort of a sealer on it just to make sure. NBC Sports, final note here, they have announced 2 fan favorite shows returning to their digital platforms since they no longer have an NBC Sports Network, and USA Network is busy doing reruns of God only knows what. They're going to run on the streaming service Peacock and other digital platforms. The first one is NASCAR America Motor Mouths. The other is going to be the continuation of the television version of the Dale Jr. Download podcast. That second one there, not really a shock. As for Motor Mouths, this is just basically a round table of them talking about the news of the day and or week. Expect NBC Sports NASCAR personalities from Jeff Burton and Steve Letarte to Dale Jarrett, Kyle Petty, the newly minted Daytona 500 winning owner, Brad Daugherty, all to be included, along with other personalities like Marty Snyder, Kim Kuhn, racer turned commentator turned racing commentator, Parker Kligerman. You can't tell that one without a scorecard. Nate Ryan, Dustin Long, special guests throughout the season as well. But yeah, both of those are back, and if they haven't already started, expect them to start very, very soon. Again, the Dale Jr. download, that's just a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I mean, that's already there. All you got to do is put cameras up there and have somebody go through and make sure that whenever they say something that you can't say on television, beep, and you're good to go.
Yeah, you hit the beep button.
That's it. I can do that. Let's see. Let's talk about some Cup Series news here. And in the aftermath of what could be considered, again, we're talking Daytona 500, Talladega. We see quote-unquote upsets like this all the time. But if you had a bingo card and you actually picked the 47 car to win, you're a much better predictor than I am.
Doggone it, I should have played those odds.
Anyway, single car operation, JTG Doherty claims the win, and as we've noted, anybody, yeah, you can win it, but who would have thought it? Yep, 47, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. holding and hoisting the Harley J. Earl Trophy, and guess what he did to celebrate with it after they got done?
You go to Waffle House.
Brought that big trophy into the Waffle House.
Are you the winner? Yes, ma'am, I am. Woo! Free food on us.
Yeah, all $8 of it. For co-owner Brad Daugherty, this might be the pinnacle of his career in sports. Think about that for a second. He's had a pretty storied career about it. Brad was a star in college at the Blue Blood college basketball program North Carolina, then got drafted and played an 8-year career in the National Basketball Association with the Cleveland Cavaliers. And 5 of those years, he was voted to the All-Star game. But he talked about all of that and compared it to becoming a Daytona 500 winner as an owner with NBCSports.com and said, quote, "It's all part of a fantastic journey. I have to say, standing here as a Daytona 500 champion, something that my dad loved, it's really, really significant, might just be the pinnacle." When did he play in the NBA? He played back in the 1980s, back in the heyday of Bird versus Magic, Celtics versus Lakers.
Yep.
And he said the biggest thing that he remembers out of his NBA basketball career was beating those guys in Boston Garden in a playoff game, being absolutely phenomenal. We're talking the Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, highfalutin, 3-time NBA championship winning Boston Celtics. To beat them on the parquet in Boston Garden, he said, was phenomenal. And then he added this, "But I put so much blood, sweat, and tears into this sport of racing that it's almost overwhelming from Sunday. People ask which is better. They're both a tremendous blessing to have been part of. I was as excited Sunday at the end of the race as when we beat those guys in Boston Garden." That's huge. That's huge.
It's pretty. It is big, but anytime you're on a super speedway, you cannot rule Ricky Stenhouse Jr. out.
No, he's actually very underrated as a super speedway racer. Very underrated.
To me, he falls in that category of for underrated super speedway racers. That if I had a car that I was going to feel that I was not going to drive myself, let me put that disclaimer out there. There's a classification of guys that I would call to drive my car. And I use it as a classification. Here's 5. Landon Castle.
I can see that.
Jamie McMurray.
Assuming you could get him to come back to it.
I'm sure in the right situation, he probably would come run a one-off.
For a Daytona 500, probably.
People probably would laugh at me, but Mike Wallace.
I see where you're going there.
Mike Wallace. Michael Waltrip.
Sure. Let's face it, all of his wins in NASCAR came in super speedway races.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
I might throw another one at you there, and it's mostly because of bad luck that he hasn't claimed one, and it's Eric Almirola.
He's an underrated super speedway racer, for sure. I'm going to throw another one out there. Justin Haley.
He's got a long way to go, too.
He does.
He's got quite the career ahead of him.
And so far, where have all of his Xfinity wins came? Super speedways.
Sad thing is, Brad Daugherty wasn't actually at Daytona to help them celebrate. He explained that as well. He said he was there at Daytona at the beginning of the day, but he had to leave before the race went green because he was having vision problems. He recently had eye surgery, and it was bothering him too much. So he went home to Orlando, said he had the race on, saw the end of the race. He saw the win. So, yeah, congratulations to him. I know that it's absolutely fantastic. Then there's the other part of Iconic. It's a pretty good chance if you're listening to this show, you've seen the film Days of Thunder.
If you haven't, what rock have you been living under?
Really. Despite its flaws, and there are a few, I use that term carefully, it remains a seminal film for NASCAR fans. It's, let's face it, highly quotable as well. So for the final time in its current configuration, and maybe the final time ever at Auto Club Speedway, it seems kind of appropriate that the Grand Marshal for the race is going to be one Michael Rooker.
Really?
Portrayed Rowdy Burns in the film, in case you'd forgotten that. He's set to give the famed command of drivers, start your engines. I actually hope that the rain gets the heck out of there because I really want to see how he does this.
So we're taking the jet out to California today, right?
Sure, we're going to take Wonder Woman's invisible jet and head right on out there. I like your thinking, though, John.
I would much rather hear somebody bring it back and somebody say it. Gentlemen,
Sure.
start your engines.
Yeah.
It's not drivers for the love of humanity and mankind on the face of Mother Earth.
Well,
It's not that.
That went away. Sorry.
Because we got to be politically correct.
I know. Legacy Motor Club, you remember them. They used to be Petty GMS Racing. They've announced an extension of their partnership agreement with the U.S. Air Force, marking their 15th season together, dating back to the days when it was just Petty Motorsports, even before GMS got into it. The Air Force color is going to be the primary on the 43 of Eric Jones for 3 races this season, including our own backyard. We get to see it up close and personal at Talladega. Charlotte also going to be there. That's appropriate because it's Memorial Day weekend, and then they're going to be back on the car at Bristol in the fall.
It has a Thunderbird paint scheme, and it's sharp.
It is. It's good.
It's very sharp.
I did not get pictures of it. I apologize. Congratulations to Michael and Jamie McDowell. They let the world know via Michael's Twitter account they've had their 5th child, a daughter named Isabella Grace. Love that name. They made the announcement Tuesday evening. She joins a family that already includes kids Trace, Emma, Riley, and Lucas. Congratulations. Stewart Haas Racing's most tenured driver is obviously Kevin Harvick. Kevin Harvick's set to reach a career milestone tomorrow when he cranks the engine and takes to the green flag at Auto Club Speedway. That'll be consecutive start number 750. Puts him 3rd on the all-time list behind only Jeff Gordon and Ricky Rudd. Here's the thing. With his pending retirement from Cup Series racing at the end of the season, that's where he's going to remain. Gordon leads that list, 797 straight. Rudd rattled off 788 consecutive. If you do the math, for Harvick, his streak began in April of 2002. Yeah, I said April 2002, not when his Cup career began following the death of Dale Earnhardt. The reason it begins in April of 2002 is because NASCAR didn't like what Harvick did to one Coy Gibbs in that same weekend's Truck Series race at Martinsville Speedway, so they said, you're going to sit out the Cup Series race this weekend. Wish they'd do that more often now.
Name that replacement driver that replaced him.
Actually, Rain Man, I probably could, but I didn't take the time to look it up.
Kenny,
Sorry.
Kenny Wallace.
There you go. Hey, Hermie. Assuming that Harvick does make it, by the way, to the end of the season running all the races, it's a pretty good bet. His Cup career streak will end at 784. 4 behind Ricky Rudd. If he had not been sat out,
It's all his.
it's all his. He'd even go past Jeff Gordon.
He'd be well past 800.
That's what you get for being a hothead when you're a kid.
Yep.
Lesson learned, kids. 2311, no, not 23 by 1. 2311 Racing began as a one-car team 2 years ago. Last year, wasted very little time expanding out to a 2-car operation. That's where they're sitting this year, but SiriusXM Satellite Radio's NASCAR channel had team president Steve Lauletta on, and he let it know they are looking at expanding out again. They just don't have necessarily a timeline. He said, quote, "We certainly want to. It's just when is the right time? When is the right driver available? When is the right partner, sponsors, crew chief available? Can we get a charter? Is that available?" There's just so much that goes into it. We're going to keep an eye on it and see what happens. Plus, I have this question. We know why they use the numbers 23 and 45. 23 is obviously Michael Jordan's famed number that he used when he was with the Chicago Bulls and then again when he was with the Washington Wizards. 45 is what he used when he turned to baseball and played with the Birmingham Barons and briefly used in his initial return to the Chicago Bulls after he unretired. So where do you go after that? Well, if you add 23 and 45 together, you come up with 78. Well, that's already spoken for.
68.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. 68. Hey, math failed me. Sorry, Mrs. Robertson. 68's available, isn't it?
67's available too. And considering your 67 car with your driver that has never set his posterior side in a cup car until then, was your top finishing driver and you made said top finishing driver foot the entire bill for the car. Yes, he did say that 3 times on air. I would say you've got the resources to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's. I don't want to hear, we don't have the resources of this or that or not. No, you had your do it all person, get in a cup car, finish 11th, ahead of quite a few good people.
Yeah.
And held his own quite well.
It'd be interesting to watch this process.
Just do it.
Yeah. This is a matter of when, not if. And again, we've talked about charters. Charters are only becoming much more expensive because we've got more and more teams that either want to expand, like 2311, or come into the Cup Series. So, yeah, they're only going to get more expensive because there are now a limited number. We're stuck at 36. And you got a lot of teams out there trying to figure out who's going to keep them. But, yeah, this is a matter of when, not if. I can guarantee it. We're going to talk Daytona 500 ratings when we come back on CRN.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. Four tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back into the show. Hour number 2 underway. Steve West, Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers, and we've been taking a look here. We're pretty certain there ain't going to be no racing happening today at Auto Club Speedway.
Maybe a boat race or two.
Could be a boat race, yeah.
Maybe a boat race. Maybe something else. I don't know. No telling.
But you found out something interesting. I mean, we made fun last hour with the song It Never Rains in Southern California, which is, as we know, a flat-out lie now, because we're talking 100% chance of rain through about noontime there locally today.
At least.
And then falling off into the
least.
60, 50, and 40% range for the rest of the day, which means you might be able to start the drawing process, but there's no guarantee that you can complete it, NASCAR.
Maybe, possibly.
But
Don't know.
but you also noted some other form of weather that's in the area.
Yeah.
Southern California.
All right, I'm gonna turn.
Remember that.
I'm gonna turn my radar here and put it into the camera, and I'm gonna see when it comes up on the screen where I can describe it. Okay. Right there where you see the word San Bernardino. Okay. You see that little bit of blue right? The Auto Club Speedway is right to the left-hand side of where it says San. Okay. Right there to the right side. There we go. You see that blue on there? That's snow.
In Southern
It's
California.
within 15 miles of the racetrack.
How's tomorrow look?
Cloudy and a high cloudy and a high of ladies and gentlemen 49.
They might get in the race tomorrow. They might get in both races tomorrow. We've been in a situation where we've done an impromptu doubleheader on Sunday.
Yep, we have.
All right. Speaking of broadcasting, Fox Sports also, as we know, still awaiting the arrival of 2014 Cup Series champion Kevin Harvick to the broadcast booth. That's not until next year, so guest commentators for this year, again, it is. Tony Stewart did the Busch Light Clash in the Daytona 500. He'll actually be back in the booth for this weekend's race at Auto Club, whenever they get it in. And then he'll return to the booth in a race that Matt, producer John, and I are all hoping to be at as well. Atlanta, March 19th. In between there, you got two races, Vegas and Phoenix, just like she did last year. Danica Patrick's going to join Mike Joy and Clint Boyer to help on the calls there.
That ought to be fun.
Ratings for the Daytona 500, kind of a good news, bad news situation for Fox and NASCAR. Here's the bad news first. Total ratings are down 8% from the 2022 race, but the total number of people watching, still pretty good. 8.181 million people. It peaked at one point in time, according to the official numbers by Nielsen, at over 10.1 million viewers in real time. Why do you say that that's good news? Because that's actually down from 2022's number of 8.868 million. Well, here is the good news part of it. The race was the most watched television show of the entire weekend. That includes Saturday night and Sunday night primetime shows. So as I said, there's a good news there. Total share actually was up from 2022. And the reason why, according to Adam Stern of Sports Business Journal, the total number of homes that were actually watching TV was down overall compared to the same weekends in 2022 versus 2023.
Yeah.
So fewer people were actually watching any television of any point, but when they were checking out the Daytona 500 as a general rule. So there you go. Some Xfinity Series news. MBM Motorsports says that they're scaling back their operations. That's according to owner Carl Long. Team put the number 66 on the track full-time in 2022, had a second car, the number 13 car, for the majority of the 2022 Xfinity Series schedule. Here's the thing. 66 is set to soldier on, but past last weekend's season opener, the 13, it may not be back. According to John Jackson, who's a part-time driver and a manager within the operation, you can expect the 66 to be split between drivers Timmy Hill and Dexter Stacy. Stacy was in the car at Daytona. The team attempted to qualify two cars, I should say, for the Daytona 500, but neither Timmy Hill nor J.J. Yeley could get them into the race. As far as Cup team stuff is concerned, team owner Carl Long said that the Cup cars are prepped. They could go to any race, but the funding's not there. He says should that change, they insist that they'll go Cup Series racing this year, but for all intents and purposes, MBM Motorsports is a now single-car operation in the Xfinity Series, and that'll be just about it.
Honestly, I'm not all that totally surprised by this.
I hate it for Carl Long, who I've never met the guy, but for all the reports that I've ever read or heard or seen about Carl Long, he's a very, very good guy. But the thing about it is he's running backmarker cars.
Oh, extremely.
And in the long run, that's going to come back and bite you in the butt.
Bingo.
And it has.
Bingo, bingo, bingo.
This is an interesting situation. Mason Maggio. Who? Mason Maggio. He's got very limited NASCAR experience. It's limited to 4 races in the Truck Series last year with the Rayone brothers. Best finish being 27th at Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway, but despite those underwhelming results, he is going to get the chance to drive for MBM Motorsports in the Xfinity Series race at Las Vegas in the number 66?
So 4 Truck Series starts,
Best finish 27th.
and you get a promotion. So you're saying there's a chance.
Resident driver over there, just noting. Sam Hunt Racing has secured Gear Wrench as a sponsor for 3 races with Tyler Reddick this season in the number 24 Super. I do find it interesting, the parallels here, because we jokingly, I don't mean it as disrespect, but we jokingly call Sam Hunt Racing the other SHR with Stewart Haas Racing there. But the parallels between these two seem to be oddly overwhelming, because guess who's a sponsor at Stewart Haas Racing as well? Gear Wrench. Huh. Anyway, the first of those is supposed to be today at Auto Club Speedway. Whenever they get this race in, the number 24 Super will have that. It'll also happen at Las Vegas next weekend, and then when they get to Darlington in May. All right. Congratulations, Sam Hunt.
Yes, they are.
Right here in Alabama, we know several convenience store chains. One that we don't know, because we ain't got them in Alabama, the home state of this particular show, is Huck's Food and Fuel. But the convenience store chain does have locations in northwestern Tennessee, western Kentucky, eastern Missouri, Indiana, and Illinois. Chi-Town Mark. You'll see a good bit of them on the hood of the Junior Motorsports number 1 car as well, driven by Sam Mayer. They're going to be sponsoring 6 races on that one car. They're going to be at Nashville Super Speedway, the Chicago Street Course, Indianapolis, those 3 are obvious, Kansas, and Bristol. Despite the fact that they're not in eastern Tennessee, they are going to be on the car at Bristol. Will the company expand? I don't know. Can't tell you this. What I do know is this. Alabama now has what had been Texas and Texas-only based Buc-ee's moving in. We got the Mid-Atlantic chain Wawa beginning to move into the southeast. They're already in Florida. We saw them in Florida when we were at Daytona a couple of weeks ago.
All over Orlando.
Starting into the Alabama Gulf Coast area. So Huck's Food and Fuel? Maybe.
I mean, Quick Trip is expanding into Alabama. Finally.
Yeah, it's about time, guys. Gosh.
Yeah, we now have a 3rd Buc-ee's in Alabama. Actually, 4. Excuse me.
We do.
4.
Mhm.
4.
Started off in Foley. Then we got the one in Leeds, right at the same exit where you get off to go to Barber Motorsports Park. They just opened the one up in North Alabama in Athens. And they're working on, I don't think it's open yet, but they're working on one. Is it in or is it just outside of Auburn?
Just outside of Auburn on 85.
Okay. So there you go.
Yep.
Come on, Buc-ee's. Come on, Quick Trip.
Come on, 7-Eleven.
Sure. Bring them all in.
Yeah.
Alpha Prime Racing has announced they've got a nationwide, depending on where you are, chain called Costa Oil set to sponsor their number 43 car and driver Ryan Ellis for a bigger number of races than they did last year. Last year on the 45 car, they sponsored Ellis at Dover Motor Speedway, and that's because it's the company's backyard. They're based in the Mid-Atlantic area. This season, they've committed to 4 races, supposedly beginning today at Auto Club or whenever this Xfinity Series race at Auto Club Speedway happens. Then they're going to be back at Martinsville, Dover in April, and July at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. So I looked them up. They own and operate oil change centers around the country. Closest to Alabama, Atlanta, where they got 2 locations, and southern Mississippi. I'm talking Hattiesburg and all the way down to the Gulf Coast. But they do stretch. They have locations from the East Coast all the way out to California on the West Coast. So I don't know. Maybe they'll continue to expand as well. JD Motorsports always seems to need sponsors while keeping their older ones. For the latter part of that particular situation, they reported this week that one of their sponsors, KSDT CPA, is back for 2023, going to be a primary sponsor for 5 races this coming year. They were not detailed except for Auto Club Speedway. They'll spend the rest of the season as an associate sponsor for driver Bailey Curry on the 4 car. So, hey, it's a good thing you get to keep sponsors. That's always a good thing. And then you add some later. Speaking of, ThorSport Racing has announced for the Craftsman Truck Series, they got themselves a new associate sponsor on the number 99 truck of Ben Rhodes. It's called All Pro Audio Visual. They're also coming on board as the race team's official audio-visual company. For the meeting room, I guess?
Or for televisions for the hauler.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah.
Either way, Rhodes had a pretty successful 2022, grabbed a win, 8 top 5s, 13 top 10 finishes, led a total of 271 laps. So the 99 has become one of the popular stops for sponsors No word on whether All Pro is going to be a primary at any point in time this season. At this time, right now, all we know is that they're going to be an associate sponsor on that number 99 truck. Later this year, when the Truck Series comes to our backyard here at Talladega, you're going to see Clay Greenfield in number 84 driving for Cook Racing Tech. Who? Yeah, Cook Racing Tech. At this time, it's the only scheduled race for Cook Racing Tech. But Greenfield said he's working on more. He talked to FrontStretch.com this week, said the details are being ironed out, and he could see a sponsor for Talladega, which is a company called Backwater Blue Pools, coming with him, maybe Nashville Superspeedway, because the company's based in Nashville. He also added that Atlanta Motor Speedway was another possibility that they're talking about, but right now they are still only in the talk stages.
Well, Clay, you got about 3 weeks to get Atlanta going, buddy.
Unless you're thinking of the, I guess they're not going to be back when they go to the summertime, so make those talks quick, bub. Tricon Garage has announced 2 part-time driver additions. They're going to put Kaz Gralla in their number 1 Toyota Tundra at Las Vegas. The same day, they're going to put John Hunter Nemechek in the number 17 Toyota at Vegas. So that's one situation for them. Kaz Gralla has only the 1 race. Joe Nemechek going to get a second one. After the situation at Vegas, he's set to be back in the number 17 at Atlanta again. Both of these trucks are competing full-time, both of these drivers are competing full-time in the Xfinity Series. Gralla is full-time with Sam Hunt Racing, Nemechek full-time for Joe Gibbs Racing, but hey, you have the chance to get behind the wheel of a car, you take it. Witness the resident driver for CRN. Just saying. Have helmet and driver outfit or fire suit and will travel. Oh, the bad news. NASCAR dropped the suspension hammer on driver owner Corey Roper. Said that the 45-year-old Texas native has violated the substance abuse policies of NASCAR, but per NASCAR tradition, what substance? We don't know. They didn't state it. Roper was not driving, nor was he even at Daytona, but his team was with the 04 Ford. Caden Honeycutt was behind the wheel. They didn't have the speed. They didn't qualify for the event, and Roper now has to go through NASCAR's Road to Recovery program to apply for reinstatement to be allowed back in any facility in any way, shape, or form anyway.
All right, time on this one. Quick one. You're not at the track.
Mm.
You're not driving.
Mm.
Keyword, you're not at the track.
Mm-hmm.
But you've been suspended on substance abuse.
What are you doing, dude?
What, did they just randomly go to Texas and say, oh, hey, here you go. Oops.
There you go. Rain Man over here might have heard of him, but
I have.
There's a pretty good chance that if you have heard of Justin Carroll Racing, it's because you're a true fan of the Craftsman Truck Series. Otherwise, you're going, Justin Carroll Racing. Well, Carroll is the owner and driver that attempted to get into 5 races last year in a number 90 Toyota Tundra, but he missed making the field each and every time. But he's not stopping yet. He's back this year, set to try again, said he's going to attempt 5 more races this year, said he plans to try to qualify for the events at Martinsville, Richmond, Nashville, Bristol, and has added North Wilkesboro to his thoughts in 2023. You can tell those are all in a nice little, tight little circle to cut down on some of the travel expenses. He added that he's planning to run some ARCA Menards and ARCA Menards East Series races as well this year, so we'll have to keep an eye on Justin Carroll and see if he's able to do anything with that.
Yep.
Superstar Racing Experience got another yet new to SRX driver announced for the upcoming 2023 season. And yes, he's a former NASCAR driver as well. Who's that guy we've been talking about quite a bit today? Oh, that's right, Kenny Wallace. Kenny Wallace is going to join the field for 1 of the 6 races. It's going to be the finale. Well, is Lucas Oil Raceway Park the finale? I didn't think that it was. I guess it is. Anyway,
It is.
Thursday, August the 17th, Wallace is going to be there. 9-time Xfinity Series winner who grew up racing on short and dirt tracks. Don Hawk, the CEO of Superstar Racing Experience, said, it only made sense since Kenny has been, quote, a huge fan of SRX since day one.
Here's the kicker on this one right here. See, Lucas Oil is sneaky enough to cause a little bit of confusion. Lucas Oil Raceway Park is the asphalt track in Indianapolis.
Mm-hmm.
Lucas Oil Speedway is the dirt track in Wheatland, Missouri.
Yeah.
I might have to go to Wheatland, Missouri just to go watch this.
Could be a lot of fun.
This will be fun.
In the press release announcing Wallace's entry into that final race of the year, he said, quote, "I've always been a big fan of the SRX series because it's good for racing in every way, and now that it's on Thursday nights, it's even better. I'm truly honored and humbled at the same time to be able to race with these world-class drivers. When you see me at an SRX event, I'll be smiling from ear to ear, giving it everything I've got on and off the track." And then yesterday came word that we've been anticipating.
The worst kept secret of the Superstar Racing experience.
I mean, think about it. He's the co-founder of the series. He's the series' first season champion. We figured it was just a matter of time, and now we officially know Tony Stewart is going to race SRX this year, and he's doing it full-time. All 6 races, gunning for his second title in the series. Smoke said, quote, "I'm excited to race full-time in SRX for a 3rd straight season, compete for another championship." As for the series itself, he said this, quote, "I'm really proud of what we've built with Ray Evernham and the quality of drivers we've assembled for 2023. And remember, this driver lineup is still not quite totally full. For 2023 is a testament to Superstar Racing Experience's success, the passion, the excitement that we've earned from fans in the short track community. And we're looking forward to another summer of sold-out racetracks. Can't wait to bring Thursday Night Thunder back to ESPN." And I think that has really opened up the door because, again, we talked about all these drivers that are either doing this for the first time or have announced that they're going to be racing it for the first time full-time. It's because it's on Thursday nights, and it's not really conflicting with everything else. When it was on Saturday nights on CBS, it was great, don't get me wrong. I love the fact that they had something like that on Saturday night because, let's face it, television's kind of a wasteland otherwise on Saturday night.
True.
So it was fantastic to have it there, but this really belongs in a situation where you are able to go and grab drivers from, and again, we've talked about it. It's NASCAR heavy right now, but we're going to get into that situation where we're going to find that there are going to be IndyCar drivers who say, you know what? I can make a Thursday night show even if we have a race that weekend. So I'm waiting for it, and I'm not ruling out the idea that an NHRA driver or two might actually be enticed, considering now we've got one Tony Stewart fairly well involved in the NHRA world too.
Pedregon and Caps will be your top 2.
We'll take a look at it and see what happens and keep you updated on it as the updates come along. And speaking of those straight liners, we'll talk about the National Hot Rod Association next, right here on CRN as we continue.
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back. 2 tires only, and back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Real quick, before we go any further here, I'm Steve West, producer John. Matt Nicholson's here, and he's got a couple of notes that he'd like to pass along as well.
SRX. If they don't have Alan Bestwick on the ESPN broadcast, it's a travesty.
I agree, because he's worked for ABC ESPN before. So, yeah, that needs to happen.
Secondly, the intro theme song, if it is not the old Speed World theme song.
Oh, bring it. I mean, if you're resurrecting Thursday Night Thunder, let's go back old school. Let's do it all old school.
It's a total travesty.
Yeah, let's go all old school. Come on, let's do it. Let's see what else can we get going here. How about some NHRA news? We teased it before the break, so let's do it. Josh Hart's 2022 season was a big success for the second-year Top Fuel pilot. He finished 7th in the final standings. Said that his R&L Carriers sponsorship extended their partnership into this year. Was part-time in his first season, but ran the full schedule last year, made 2 final rounds, bested several other more established operations, made the championship round, so congratulations to him. Got his first career win in year number 1 in that part-time schedule with the continuation of R&L Carriers. He says, now I feel much more comfortable. Money-wise, we're good. I'm aiming for a title.
Hey,
you got some stiff competition, but I like your confidence.
Go for it.
Jim Dunn Racing has added power-built tools to their sponsor lineup for funny car driver Alex Laughlin. Southern California company going to be an associate sponsor all season long, which continues their relationship with Laughlin now into multiple years. The driver, however, is new to Dunn Racing, as is the sponsor, but hey, it's all good there. And then there's Joe and Kathy Maynard. They're the owners of JCM Racing. You might remember, if you're an NHRA fan, this was formerly Don Schumacher Racing, but the Maynards bought it out. Well, they've started their own driver development program. We've talked about this a lot in Formula One. We talk about it a little bit in Indycar. It seems really prevalent in open-wheel racing, but we haven't heard about it necessarily so much in stock cars. Ford has something of a driver development program. Toyota has, well, they've got the Joe Gibbs Racing situation, which is got their tentacles into everything all the way down to the NASCAR line. But it's not really overall a driver development program necessarily. It's not officially that.
Right.
NHRA, it's practically been unheard of until now. JCM Racing fields the Top Fuel ride of Tony Schumacher, the funny car ride of Tim Wilkerson, but they're also set to support the teams behind 3 young drag racers. A junior drag racer, 10-year-old Waylon Bennett, a 21-year-old Kaylee Hill, who competes in Super Comp and Super Stock, racer Ryan Wagner, who's also 21 years old. All 3 are continuing in those divisions here in 2023, and all of them are going to get backing from JCM Racing. Joe Maynard said of the new program, quote, how a driver conducts themselves off the track is just as important as how they do it on track. So we want to set our development drivers up with a solid foundation as they advance in their young careers. But make no mistake, it's not a sponsorship, it's an opportunity. The goal is for these young folks to become well-rounded as possible. It's not a direct pipeline to any seat in the JCM Camping World Series. Rather, it's an incredible opportunity to learn. They have the tools at their disposal. It's up to them to make the most of it. Here's the thing. He can say all of that as much as he wants, but I can guarantee you this. If they take advantage of the tools and make the most out of those tools that they can, you don't think that they're going to put them in a Camping World Drag Racing Series car for JCM Racing? There's a reason why they chose these 3. I can guarantee you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If you're a fan of racing, and, well, let's face it, if you're listening to the show, that seems pretty likely, then you know that sponsorship makes the wheels turn. We talked about this an hour ago. IndyCar is taking this very, very seriously, and they have signed Advance Auto Parts to be the official sponsor of the series checkered flag.
And now throwing the Advance Auto Parts checkered flag.
It's a deal that runs through the 2025 season. It puts the logo of the parts store right in the middle of the iconic checkered flag. It also makes them the official parts store of both IndyCar and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Also, begin to listen closely to the post-race interviews. I love this little detail. The deal states that the winning driver, anytime they use the word advance as a verb, so in other words, watch your sentence construction very carefully, winning drivers. Anytime you use the word advance as a verb in your post-race interview, it will trigger Advance Auto Parts to add to your prize money total. And here's the caveat. The extra will be donated to the charity of the driver's choice all the way throughout the 2023 season. I got to say, that's a pretty cool thing.
That's kind of similar to what Xfinity does with the Xfinity series, because you know there's bonus money tied into it because
Sure.
I get sick to my gills up here. Well, my car was as fast as Infinity 10G internet.
There's a reason why they say that.
There, yeah, it's like $5,000 a pop.
Yeah. If you happen to be planning on heading up to Indianapolis for a race that I had the pleasure of doing 2 years ago back in 2021, the IndyCar NASCAR doubleheader weekend, you're now going to get a little bit more bang for your entertainment buck because the slate, which has IndyCar and Xfinity sharing the track on Saturday and then the Cup Series taking the center stage on Sunday, has now got a fourth race on the weekend. It is the Indy NXT, or formerly Indy Lights Series, that has been added to the docket. And it'll now kick off 3 days of racing. Indy Next, or NXT, is going to run their race Friday, August the 11th on the road course. Saturday the 12th, IndyCar and Xfinity share the track Cup Series all alone on Sunday the 13th.
Well.
So there you go. You're looking to have a full weekend of entertainment. Mid-August might be your ticket.
You've got it.
IndyCar has tested them. The Bridgestone Firestone Company, Firestone specifically being the official tire providers for the series, has said that they use the off-season to locate and incorporate more sustainable elements into their race tires, feel that they've been able to make it possible. So Firestone will provide IndyCar with tires made from the guayule, and if I got that wrong, I don't care, desert shrub found in southwest United States and Mexico. They say they can provide it to the series at all 5 street course events debuting next weekend in St. Petersburg. The tires were used twice in 2022. It was used during the Pit Stop Challenge at the Indy 500, so it wasn't really truly tested there. But later in the season, they actually did use them in race form at the Music City Grand Prix in Nashville. You're familiar with the red tires. You're familiar with the black tires. These particular tires have a green stripe on them. Speaking of that, IndyCar has mandated the use of both tire compounds, the black and the red, or the hard and the softer compounds, at each road and street course race. This year, for the first time ever, IndyCar is going to try to mandate it in an oval track situation. They're going to bring the second softer compound tire to Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway. Now, here's the thing. Will they feature the red stripe? We don't know it at this time, but it does seem likely. Green, again, taken with another tire. Blue is a wet weather tire, so how many other colors do you got? I say you stick with the tried and true black and red. But, yeah, they're actually going to mandate it at an oval track for the first time. You have been able to do it in the past, but it hasn't been mandated. Now it's mandated. You must use both compounds at least once during the course of the race.
Interesting.
We'll see how that works.
Interesting.
Some other things coming to IndyCar this season, several safety enhancements for the cars, including something called Rain Vanes, V-A-N-E-S. It's what the series states should help the water roll off the aero screen in wet weather racing a little bit better so that the drivers aren't looking through a windscreen that's, well, bubbled up with a whole lot of rainwater. Okay. Anything that'll help on that, I'm sure. A new rear attenuator and a stronger rear wheel tethers are also going to be included. They're going to try and keep those wheels from flying off the car and hitting another by adding stronger tethers. It's about time. Mm-hmm. Also, you can expect new LED lights to be used in wet weather conditions. Brighter, I don't know about. Probably what they mean by that is more of them, just to make them more apparent. There's the EM marshalling system. It's going to get an upgrade as well. EM Motorsports Telemetry, which provides both the teams and NBC Sports, getting an upgrade to give more reliable, up-to-date, and up-to-the-second information. So whatever you see on the screen when NBC Sports is doing IndyCar coverage should be almost immediate. There'll be more aero adjustments, including a new underwing sidewall and infill wicker for use at Texas Motor Speedway. They're really trying to create more downforce there to keep these cars on the track is what they're trying to do.
I don't think I think they're doing it more to try to make the racing better.
Well, they got to do
Even
something.
better. They got to do something because that's one place that you don't have a problem with cars flying is Texas.
That's true. But you don't want them to fly off the track either.
Sure.
For Indianapolis, they're expecting a new underwing flap wicker. What the heck's that going to do? That seems like it would dirty the air up. Wouldn't that make it harder to pass if you dirty the air? I'd have to see it because I don't know exactly what that's going to do.
Yeah, it really would.
There's also a mandatory stability wicker. Okay. And 3 more degrees of range on the adjustable rear wing that they're going to use at the Indy 500, only at the Indy 500. And by the way, if you're an IndyCar fan with a smartphone, there's a pretty good chance that you have the official IndyCar app. If you don't, wait a little bit longer. If you do have it, prepare for an update. because as the season is about ready to get underway, much like their official website, they've updated the site. Now they're going to update the app. Again, wait until 1 week from today, then you can download it, and then you don't have to turn around and get the update, which will be new for 2023. Racer.com's reporting the updated app going to have some new features for the user, updates to the live race experience overall, a new look and feel for the entirety of the app. The desire is to have more interaction with the user as opposed to basically the user opening it and being, well, a little bit more than a spectator to what's been going on that particular app. You can expect some favorite standards that they've had in the past, like live in-car cameras and live in-car audio and in-race points as they run to continue after the update. So there's some cool stuff already, but again, it hasn't been very terribly interactive. I had it on my phone for a while, and sorry, IndyCar, I deleted it. I might actually pick it back up now.
You're talking about Indycars flying at Texas. If Indycars go flying at Texas and they fly off of turn 1, they're going to be in the parking lot of a Buc-ee's. I don't know if that'd be a good thing.
Probably not. As we turn our attention over to Formula One, God, I don't know when we're going to get done with this power unit talk or engine talk, for lack of a better term. But it continues on. Over the past couple of weeks, we've been talking about what brand is powering what company, and we noted that Honda, which is currently working with Red Bull and AlphaTauri, is out after the 2025 season with them because they've got Ford branding coming in that particular year, 2026. But Honda has said that they are intent, or at least they seem intent, on the idea of continuing as an engine provider in Formula One. They filed the paperwork with the FIA in Formula One. They want to rejoin as an official engine unit supplier in 2026 with the new regulations. We've asked this before. We've kind of detailed it, but we're going to detail it again in case you missed it. Who are they going to provide the engines to? Because, again, Red Bull and their sister company AlphaTauri, get back to that in a minute, set to run Ford engines. Mercedes, they've got their own. Now, Williams also runs Mercedes engines, but that contract with Mercedes is up after 2025. We'll see about that. That may be an opening. Renault powers Alpine, which Alpine's a sub-brand under the Renault group. That's going to continue. Ferrari powers themselves along with Haas F1 and Alfa Romeo, but we do know about this. Alfa Romeo's title sponsorship ends after the season. It reverts to Sauber. Sauber's joining with Audi for 2026, so Ferrari no longer has to supply the Sauber team. They'll just supply themselves and Haas F1, while Audi Sauber has Audi providing the new power plant. So we have got Mercedes, we've got Renault, we've got Ferrari, we've got Audi. The only team without a brand name associated at that point in time is going to be Williams. They've got a couple of choices. They could return to Mercedes. They could go with Honda. They could still go with Porsche because Porsche's still on that outside looking in, hey, we'd like to get in there. But one of their deals is kind of like Audi. They want to be at least a partial owner of whatever team they come in as a power unit supplier to. Mm-hmm. So there's all of these situations, and there's also the possibility of a new to Formula One team, assuming that the current teams let one or two in. We've talked about that as well. When it comes to that, the Concord agreement between FIA, Formula One, and the teams and drivers states you can have as many as 12 teams or 24 cars at any point in time that they choose. The most obvious one would be the Andretti Cadillac pairing. They've officially filed their notice of interest. Here's the thing. While the Cadillac name is going to be on the team, it appears at least at first that they're not going to be the engine provider. Could that be Honda? According to Honda officials, it's not outside the realms of possibility. They just talked about it recently and said, quote, we would like to keep a very close eye on that, and that's why we've decided to register as a power unit manufacturer. After we registered, we've been contacted by, their word, not mine, multiple F1 teams. For F1 2026 and onward, there's nothing specific that we can say about that, but we would like to be close to F1 and keep watching the racing. So I want you to continue to root for Honda. So we'll see. Again, there's Honda, there's Porsche, there's Williams. Again, they don't have a contract yet for 2026. But let's throw another fly into this whole ointment because this is a rumor, but it is an interesting one if it comes to fruition.
This morning.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking breaking news from just a couple hours ago.
Come on, load up. Here we go. Once I can get the translation to go over from the German motorsport publication, Automotor und Sport.
I love that.
All right. In regards to AlphaTauri, this is quote from their article that was released this morning at, I don't know what time, but it was at 2:25.
Sure.
All right. AlphaTauri is facing major changes. Either Red Bull's sister team moves to England to be closer in proximity to Red Bull at Milton Keynes, or the racing team is sold. There are already interested parties for the takeover.
Oh, I bet.
There are three teams that have applied to. There are the three teams that have applied to the FIA for a place in the Formula One field.
Three.
The apparent leader to possibly buy AlphaTauri, Andretti.
Shocking. Not.
Because Red Bull declared the team financially inefficient. Their words, not mine.
I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but I do find it interesting that Red Bull would talk about their sister operation as being financially unstable, or whatever you want to call it. You're the ones in charge of it.
$700 million estimated purchase price. Get me a check, John Myers.
There's not a whole lot of people that actually could cut that check, but I can guarantee you there's a guy up in Indianapolis that probably could, with a little help from the brand up in Detroit. We'll continue talking about Formula One and Formula E when we come back right here on CRN.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network.
Maintenance is vital for your vehicle.
the Championship Racing Network.
I love the comments that we get on CRN Live on YouTube. We're having fun. It's all in fun. You can be a part of it, too. Go to YouTube. Just type in CRN Live, and if you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and do it, and you can take part in the whole process as well. I'm Steve West, along with Matt Nicholson and producer John Myers here on this Saturday morning in the last one of February. But, yeah, it's the last one of February, and we have been talking about the fact that probably things aren't going to happen at Auto Club Speedway today.
Yeah, there's no probably to it.
Well, sure. We looked at the weather. We could tell you right now. No, it ain't happening.
Xfinity practice, Xfinity qualifying, Cup practice, and Cup qualifying. Done.
Not surprised at all.
Lineups to be set by the metric. The only given is Christopher Bell is your pole sitter for Cup, and Austin Hill is your pole sitter for Xfinity.
Okay.
Still no decision on the Xfinity race, but apparently with King Jim Utter of motorsport.com, he said the sanctioning body's going to still try to get the Xfinity race in today. Hey, I don't think Mercury can supply enough 400 horsepower outboard motors to get the race started on time today. Not happening.
Don't see it.
So we're probably looking at a doubleheader tomorrow.
Back to Formula One news here. As for the 2023 season, Lance Stroll has missed the first preseason testing session. He missed it at Bahrain Sakhir course. Now, he did make it in Spain, but not in Bahrain, where the season opening race is set to be held next weekend. The reason he missed? Bicycle accident. Practice session began Thursday, continued through today. We'll get back to that in a moment. Stroll, while training during their Spanish test sessions, was at the team, as the team stated, involved in a minor accident, caused a problem with his wrist. He missed that test session. Aston Martin's primary reserve driver, F2 champion Felipe Drugovich, subbed in for Stroll. The teams, meanwhile, met with F1 president and CEO Stefano Domenicali this past week, and they've agreed on two things set to be instituted for 2023. First of those, having Pirelli, the official tire provider for Formula One, making a new wet weather tire, one that will perform, but not need a heating blanket. Okay. Officials and teams agreed. Pirelli says the new tire should be available sometime around the 6th race of this coming season. The other is a winter shutdown. Now, we all know the series takes pretty much the entire month of August off, but now they're saying they're going to mandatorily have all teams shut down for a time during the winter. All the teams are going to close and lock their doors, as will the power unit makers, if they're separate from the team. They also agreed to a bump up in the allowance for the teams for each and every race over 21. We're at 23 this season. It's supposed to be 24, but welcome to China. Or not. With 23, they add $1.2 million to the budget cap. Now $1.8 million is going to be added to the cap for each race over 21. Travel expenses. As for that cap, all 10 teams are counting their pennies. Haas F1 said they found an interesting way to cut costs. They're slimming down their pit wall. Now, we think pit wall in NASCAR, we think the area that separates pit road from the war wagons.
This is creative right here.
This is not that. In this case, Haas F1 states we can save about $250,000 this year by making our war wagon, in NASCAR terms, less populated. Usually, these boxes, especially if you watch, spoiler alert, Formula One Drive to Survive, 5th season debuted just last night. And if you watch that, you see where they get the race personnel that are involved in the communications with the team principal, so on and so forth. They all sit on this war wagon, and it's 6 people, 2 generally for each of the 2 cars, the team principal and, somebody else, maybe a race strategist that covers both of them. Haas F1 says, you know what, we're going to go with a 3-man war wagon. Okay. They state that that's going to cut them about $250,000 in costs this coming year. Okay. Team principal Gunther Steiner said, quote, you got 6 people out there or $250,000 on car updates. The guys came up with this idea. His crew came up with this idea. With 3 seats, we can cover what we need to cover, and we rearrange. It's mainly a savings that can put money into the development of the car because we're at the cost cap. The only way to get faster is development, so we try to free up as much as possible for the development and not spend it on, quote, Pratt purchase. Pratt purchase. Okay, I like that.
Possible
For example,
development and not spend it on Pratt purchase.
for example, having a lot of people there. So we noted the budget cap, and even despite that, Haas F1 still has the lowest expenses of any of the 10 teams. But they do have that new title sponsor in MoneyGram, and they're adding more sponsors as they go along, so it should help them be able to spend close to on par with the other teams. We'll see how this works for them because, again, you're now dealing with race communications, tech people, and a race strategist, and it all has to be encompassed in 3 people now instead of 6. Let's see how it works.
Haas pole position incoming.
I like that prediction. McLaren, meanwhile, is saying, yeah, if you're a fan of ours, you might not like what you're going to see at the beginning of the year. It's going to be more like the beginning of 2022 when we stumbled out of the gate than the latter part of 2023 when we were really picking it up. It was brake issues that plagued them at the beginning of the year last year. Now team CEO Zach Brown says, quote, it's hard to know until we get going, but we already had set some goals for development that we didn't hit. Brown adds that missing those development targets is going to be a problem. How big he doesn't really know at this point in time, but most feel that the aerodynamics are off. It's creating more drag on the car than what they initially desired. Now, how bad is that? Well, Thursday and Friday were the first 2 days of preseason testing in Bahrain. To no one's surprise, on day 1, the fastest was your defending champions Max Verstappen and Red Bull. The slowest, a little bit of a surprise, was Haas F1 Kevin Magnussen, about 2.3 seconds slower than Verstappen. 19 drivers in all participating. Interesting to note that most of the teammates were close to each other in time, save for Haas F1.
Sandbagging.
Magnussen's quickest lap was over half a second slower than his brand new for 2023 teammate Nico Hülkenberg. He finished just outside the top 10 in day 1. Day 2 of testing showed that the speeds picked up. A little bit of a surprise at the top of the charts. Zhou Guan Yu put his Alfa Romeo at the top of the chart. He ran a 1 minute 31.610 lap. AlphaTauri's Yuki Tsunoda had some problems with his racer. The fastest he could muster when he was out there was 135.708. But discounting Tsunoda, 16 drivers of the 17, they were all within 2 seconds of each other. Lando Norris, the slowest of them. The Haas twins showed Magnussen slower than his teammate, but 11th quickest. Nico Hülkenberg, the faster of the two, was actually 5th quickest on the day, 8 tenths behind Guan Yu's quickest lap of the day. That brings us to this morning. Remember, they're in Bahrain. They've already done morning testing over there. We'll see how things look this morning.
Let's just do this right now.
Oh, do that.
They're in live. They are.
They're practicing now.
They are live right now.
Okay.
With day 3 final session.
Yes.
30 minutes into it. 17 people have taken to the track so far.
Okay.
Sergio Perez is at the top.
What's
at
his?
1:30.305.
Okay, so a little bit slower today. And that could be partly atmospherics. It could be that they're trying new stuff and it's kind of slowing down. So we'll have to keep an eye on it. But, yeah, it is interesting. Nico Hülkenberg outperforming Kevin Magnussen both days.
Yeah, you got it's Perez, Hamilton, Bottas, Leclerc, Sainz. That's weird that actually both Ferraris are on track. Yuki Tsunoda, Kevin Magnussen is sitting P7 right now, 1 second off. George Russell, P8. Fernando Alonso is P9 in the Aston Martin this year. And top 10 is Felipe Drugovich.
Wow, that's a nice pickup for him.
And Nick DeVries is 17th. 7.9 seconds off of the pace.
Good luck. We did note that there wasn't a full 20-car field either day. One of those reasons was because of the fact of the primary reserve driver in preseason testing, the wrist injury to Lance Stroll. With the race next weekend and the injury still fresh, the team admits he might not actually make the race. Team principal Mike Crack told the media about Stroll, quote, this is his personal thing. He is injured on the hand, the wrist, but I don't want to go into detail. This is all about privacy. But he added about his decision on driving, we're going to let you know in time, which means sometime this week. Crack also noted that he is being evaluated every day by team doctors and series officials. The car that prematurely ended the Formula One run of Romain Grosjean is about to go on display if you're willing to go to Spain to go check it out. Grosjean survived the fiery incident that happened in the 2020 Bahrain Grand Prix. Back then it was late in the season. His car was sent into an unprotected barrier at 120 miles per hour. The car split in half, and unfortunately, the fuel tank burst open and burst into flames. Grosjean, as noted back then, was stuck in the car for almost 30 seconds before he could work his way out of the car. It resulted in, luckily for him, only burned hands. The car was initially taken to FIA headquarters. They performed an investigation of the car and the crash to see if there were things that they could do in the name of safety, and basically kept it under wraps for that time till now. The wraps come off. It will be shown in Madrid in a purpose-built room that has been named Survival in a museum there. It's built simply for the purpose of displaying this particular car. All right, then. We've talked about this on occasion. This isn't big here in the United States of America, but the Laureus World Sports Award nominations have been unveiled. Formula One, again, well represented. Two-time defending series champion Max Verstappen's been nominated on the World Sportsman of the Year up against soccer players Lionel Messi and Kylian Mbappe. Pro tennis player Rafael Nadal and four-time defending NBA champion Stephen Curry also up for grabs in that particular category. And then there's the World Team of the Year category. Red Bull Racing facing off against the Argentinian Men's World Cup team. They won the World Cup, spoiler alert. The Euro winning England's women's soccer team. I guess they won some championship. Euro, whatever that is. Six Nations title winning French rugby team. Who knew? And the Euro Champions League winning Real Madrid Soccer Club, along with the NBA champ Golden State Warriors. We'll keep an eye on it, so you don't have to. Formula One officials signed a deal with Qatar Airways, makes them the global airline partner of the series. It also puts them in as the title sponsor of three events, the first being the Made in Italy di Emilia-Romagna, presented by Qatar Airways, apparently. May 21st, the Hungarian Grand Prix, July 23rd, and, by the way, there's that race in Qatar, the Qatar Grand Prix. Seems a natural fit. That'll be the first weekend in October.
Presented by Qatar Airways.
Yes. The trackside digital branding present at all races, so expect a whole lot of Qatar Airways talk or scenery. As part of the deal, if you're a big F1 fan, the airline's set to offer fans special travel packages to selected races that'll allow you to get round-trip airfare and race tickets for a single price. Problem is that your lodging and transportation once you're at that location are up to you.
Yeah, we use Qatar to go into F1, baby.
Now, since Birmingham decided to open up their air cargo, maybe they can land a Qatar Airways jet there.
Could be. Hey, guess what dropped yesterday on Netflix? Hey, we talked about it just a minute ago, so if you missed it, it's Formula One Drive to Survive, Season 5 available for you to stream all episodes. No, Netflix doesn't do what Disney Plus does, for example, which is drop an episode a week. Nope, you can settle down and overload as much as you want, get in all 10 episodes before the 2023 season begins, which, by the way, in case you forgot, that's next weekend. I got through episode 4. I started episode 5 last night before my eyelids got too heavy. Episode 1 does deal pretty well with the Russian invasion of Ukraine and how that affected Haas F1. Very interesting to note. Also for Haas F1 fans, episode 4 dealt pretty well with the whole situation that was beginning to develop with the Mick Schumacher drama. So keep an eye on all that.
And if your ears are a little sensitive for episode 1, be careful.
Yeah, this is not safe for work, not safe for your kids.
Gunther lets it fly for a little while.
He's not the only one.
Nope, Mattia Binotto did too.
Mattia Binotto did, and they started going really well into the rivalry that's been developing between Red Bull and Mercedes and Toto Wolff and Christian Horner, and those two are going at it, and they're not holding back on the language.
Nope.
The all-women's F1 Academy division has a 7-race slate for their first season, very Eurocentric, but the last race is actually going to be in conjunction on Formula One weekend at COTA in Austin, Texas. So there you go. And we'll deal with the Formula E feeder series. Spoiler alert, but let's talk about Formula E. Are they done?
They are done. Antonio Felix da Costa was your winner.
All right. We'll detail all of that next week and run down the points and everything as well.
Guys and girls,
we got some big things coming up.
Stay tuned for March and April. Confirmed. We got Brandon Hutchison, Executive Vice President, General Manager of Atlanta Motor Speedway, March the 11th, via phone. Same day, Craftsman Truck Series driver Brett Holmes back in studio. March 18th, the voice of the World of Outlaws, Johnny Gibson, scheduled to be on. We're working the logistics of the timeout. And April 8th, we got Xfinity Series driver Ryan Vargas.
Gonna be big.
4 pretty sizable ones.
Gonna be big.
And there could be more.
Yep. And Matt and John and I are also working on trying to get over to Atlanta Motor Speedway for that race weekend. And we've heard the potential of maybe more. If that happens, we'll detail you on that coming up later. Springtime. I can feel it. Talladega's just around the corner. I can't wait. Can't wait to actually go back to the racetrack and watch the racing as well. Thank you very much for checking us out. Thank you for checking us out on CRN Live on YouTube. Again, tell your friends if you have already subscribed. If you haven't subscribed, it's free. You can take part and you can actually comment back and forth with us. We love that, and we are able to do that throughout the course of the race. You all have a great weekend. Enjoy what racing you can get in. We'll talk to you later right here on CRN.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.